We're talking about goggles today. Now, if you've watched any of my past videos, about 2 weeks ago, I got the Skyzone SKY04X Pros. Previously, I've been flying the BetaFPV VR04 goggles. My video on the Skyzones, however, was just an unboxing, so I didn't actually talk about how it is to fly with these. But the question that I want to answer today for you is not if the VR04s are better or worse than the Skyzone SKY04X Pros. There's a $400 difference. Obviously, those goggles are going to be better. The question I do want to answer today, though, is if you're just getting into FPV or you're a beginner pilot, which goggles should you get depending on your situation? And then later in the video, we're going to do a direct DVR comparison of the VR04s and the SKY04X Pros, so you can kind of see the difference of what the video looks like looking into the goggles. The BetaFPV VR04 goggles are the cheapest analog goggle that you can get anywhere. These retail for $75 USD online. There are several options in the $100 to $200 range, but these are cheap, simple, and they got me flying when I just wanted to see if I liked FPV. About a month or two after I started flying FPV, I upgraded to the Skyzone SKY04X Pros. This was a really big jump, and I want to talk about what that jump was actually like as a beginner FPV pilot. Before we get too deep into this though, I am not a spec nerd, so if you're looking for an in-depth spec review, I would try to find another video, or I can make one about it. Today's video is kind of based off of vibes, how I felt flying the VR04s and how I felt upgrading to the SKY04X Pros. Here's the thing that nobody tells you when you're getting into FPV, but you figure it out fast. There's a lot to it. When you're brand new and don't have anything, you need to figure out what drone you want to get, what batteries go with the drone, what radio controller you want, what the crap beta flight is, how to bind the drone. All that to say there's a lot going on when you're trying to get into FPV, so the last thing you want to be stressing about is your goggles. That's why something like the VR04s actually make a lot of sense for a beginner pilot. These goggles have an internal battery. This was a big plus for me because when I was buying my tiny whoop, the Air 65-2 Freestyle for my first drone, I had to buy 1S lipos for it. Goggles with external power do not charge off 1S lipos, which meant I would have had to buy maybe a 2S or 4S battery and another charger to charge it. With a built-in battery, all I had to worry about was a USB Type-C cable, which I have 15 of. There are only 3 buttons on this thing. All you need to worry about is turning on the goggles, scanning for your channel, and hitting record. There's no external batteries, no complicated menus. You turn it on and start flying. The fact that this pair of goggles under $100 even has the option to record DVR is pretty phenomenal. It's totally enough to get you started. These are the goggles that I started my channel on. All of the footage in my first several weeks of videos were from this. So for $100, these things work. And when you're brand new and still trying to figure FPV out, something that works is all you need. Once you start getting more comfortable with flying and FPV in general, you'll start to notice a few limitations on these VR04 goggles though. And it's not because these goggles are bad, it's just because you're growing out of what they were designed to do. So for me, there's 3 things that specifically stood out. Now the first thing is the antenna situation on these goggles. The VR04s only support one antenna, and it does do a really good job, but it does limit you from a very common antenna setup, which is the Omni and patch combo. Having an Omni and a patch together is something that I really wanted. It's supposed to give you better range and signal consistency, but when you're just flying around and learning, that doesn't matter much at all. Number 2 is the fit. Box goggles aren't too bad, but they are pretty bulky. I see a lot of comments of people saying they don't like the cover that goes over their nose. I don't feel that way. I feel like it's completely fine. The thing that I didn't like about the fit was the stock head strap. Now this stock head strap is adjustable, so you can get it to fit, but I bought the Gem Fan head strap off AliExpress and put these on here when I was flying with them, and I absolutely loved it. It made these fit perfectly. Number 3 is the internal battery. Now the internal battery is super convenient, but the charge caps out at about an hour if you're recording DVR while you're flying. So that's not too bad if you're only running a few packs, but if you're looking for a long flight session, these are gonna die before you get through all of your packs. None of that really matters on day 1 and when you're learning from the get-go, but it's worth knowing these limitations exist so you're not too surprised later. So when does upgrading your FPV goggles make sense? For me, the turning point was when I realized that FPV was something that I wanted to take seriously. I knew that this wasn't just gonna be a phase, Mom. Once it stopped going from something I was experimenting with to something I was committed to, I started wanting gear that I could grow with. That's when I got the Skyzone SKY04X Pros. There are so many FPV goggle options. I'm not gonna go crazy on why I chose these over any of the others. I just know I wanted an analog first goggle goggle that also supported a digital system such as walk snail. Hopefully I get a walk snail system sometime down the road, but at least with these my options are open. The bigger reason I went with these instead of something in that $100 to $200 range is because I knew I wouldn't have to replace these. This is a buy once and use for as long as they last. I don't see any reason to move on from these unless I was flying DJI. Right away, these Sky04X Pros felt like a whole different tier of flying, and not just because of the specs. My experience of flying FPV with these was noticeably better. The screen on these are OLED, so the image looks brighter, more immersive, and relatively cleaner. Now analog is still analog, so it was still fuzzy, but I noticed I was running into less phantom branches, if that says anything. So what actually changed as far as my flying goes when moving from beginner goggles to expensive goggles? Having 2 antenna ports made a noticeable difference for me. I noticed my video breaking up a lot less, and I can fly farther without the video cutting out. Having an external battery has been an adjustment. The Sky04X Pros support DC in and USB-C. So most pilots would probably fly with a 2S or 4S LiPo attached to their head strap and plugged into the goggles that way. I still don't have either of those batteries or the charger to charge them. So I've actually been powering my goggles using 10,000 milliamp Anchor power bank. I just slip this in my pocket and have the cord running up into the goggles that way. It's been awesome because even this little power bank can last 3 to 4 sessions for me. The only thing that's really annoying though is the cable management. I have a cable going from my head all the way down to my pocket. I hit it a lot. Now I do want to make it abundantly clear that better goggles do not make you a better FPV pilot. If you're a beginner pilot and you're expecting a goggle upgrade to all of a sudden fix your flying, then you're wrong. You're still gonna crash, you're gonna pick some bad lines, and you're still gonna have sessions where you crash your drone and break it. The goggles just change the flying experience, not the learning curve. We're gonna head outside. I'm gonna fly the same line with both goggles recording, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the DVR so you can get a feel of what the video looks like. Here we are outside for our field test. I'm here at a college campus in my area. I'm standing at one end of the field here with the goggles. We're gonna do a straight shot test down that way, and we're gonna test out 2 things. We wanna test out what the DVR looks like side by side, so I'll put the VR04 DVR on one side and the Sky04X Pros on the other, so we can see a bit of the difference on video quality. The second is a bit of a range test. I've never done a full range test on either of these goggles or these antennas. To keep our variables controlled, we're gonna run the stock antennas on each. So the VR04s have this stock antenna right here. The Sky04X Pros have these, and then we'll be flying the Air 75 Race Edition. I'll be wearing the Sky04X Pros, and then I'll be setting these goggles right here so there's still no obstruction. All right, let's get it in the air. Here we are taking off with the Air 75 2 Race Edition. And my video looks great. So here we are, a bit of a range test. We're probably at 100 yards right now. Pretty fuzzy now. I have no idea how the VR04s are looking right now. Okay, these stock Skyzone antennas are actually crushing it. I'm pretty far away. Like, I'm not that close. That was pretty good, honestly. Now I'm having an issue with this video cable. It keeps touching the ELRS antenna, and I think it's making it break up a little bit right there. I need to reposition it because when I landed just barely, it kind of broke out. We're gonna have to see what the VR04s looked like on that, but I had pretty dang good video quality all the way up until that baseball field over there, and I was just scared to keep flying past that because I can't get in there if I crash. But I probably made it. That was probably a good quarter mile, maybe a little bit less. I'm not sure what that converts to in kilometers. So here's how I think about this as a beginner FPV pilot. If you're brand new to this and you're not sure if you're gonna stick with FPV or not, start with the VR04s or something in that similar price range. Especially if you're on a budget, they're simple, affordable, and have all the features necessary to get you out and flying. If you've been flying for a while and you're committed to FPV, or you just have a larger budget, go ahead and invest in gear that you know you're gonna keep. That's what I did with my Skyzone SKY04X Pros. You can do some research on other goggles that might suit you better, but the experience of flying with these goggles is genuinely better. The dual antennas are really nice, and they're goggles that you'll keep even as your flying improves. There's even a ton of goggles between this price range that are great options. A lot of people ask me which goggle they should start with. I often recommend the EV800Ds. They're still a box goggle, but they give you 2 external antennas and a removable screen, which is a cool feature. There's Fat Sharks, there's earlier models of the Skyzones, there's Emaxes, there's a lot of options. But here's what I think. I do not regret starting with the BetaFPV VR04 goggles. I was on a budget when I started. I didn't know if I was gonna like this or not, and they got me in the air and posting videos no problem. But I do not regret one bit upgrading to the Skyzone SKY04X Pros, because once I knew I was serious about this hobby, I wanted goggles that matched where I was going. If you are picking out your first FPV goggles right now, do not feel pressured about getting a more expensive pair before you've even taken your first flight. I think cheap goggles that get you in the air and give you experience is the best way to start, especially if they get you in the air sooner. Thanks for watching this video. If you've been flying FPV, drop what your first setup was in the comments. I want to see what you started with. And if you need help picking out a set of goggles, feel free to drop that in the comments also, or DM me at Alec_Searle. I also post a ton of content on there throughout the week. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.